Plutophobia. I remember a quote my former pal once said, "It's good to be white, it's better to be wealthy." Kinda racist, but that doesn't matter much right now. Racism wasn't his worst side. My point is, while many dream of having more money, those with Plutophobia find the idea downright terrifying. Plutophobia is the fear of money or wealth, making people anxious about wealthy individuals or even the prospect of becoming rich themselves. They dread dealing with money so much that they might even sabotage their careers to avoid it. This fear can stem from worries about the responsibilities and pressures of wealth, the fear of being targeted for robbery, or maybe a fear of fame. In the end, money, if it doesn't bring you happiness, will at least help you be miserable in comfort. Arachibutyrophobia is the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. We've all been there, but for some folks, this sticky situation is downright terrifying. The scare factor ranges from, "I can handle a smidge," to, "Nope, not going near that jar." Some might be wary of anything sticky, or dread the thought of choking, while others may have a haunting peanut butter memory or allergy, aka the peanut trauma. So anyway, next time you spread that PB&J, remember, it's not just a sandwich, it's a potential horror flick for the Arachibutyrophobic. Arithmophobia. Have you ever felt like maths and physics, or any science that briefly includes numbers, is a big, messy piece of crap? Many people dread math class growing up, but for those with arithmophobia, it's not just a dislike, it's a full-on fear of numbers. These folks break into a cold sweat not at the sight of numbers, but at the mere thought of having to use them. Also known as numerophobia, this phobia can make life pretty challenging, as it's tough to avoid numbers in our daily tasks and jobs. If you're a student, next time you're grumbling over a math problem, spare a thought for those who see it as their worst nightmare. Nomophobia, the ultimate horror story of being separated from your phone. Whether it's dead battery, no signal, or simply leaving it at home, this anxiety-inducing scenario sends nomophobes into a panic spiral. Though nomophobia is considered rare, cell phone addiction is widespread. Studies reveal that around half of both men and women feel anxious about their phones, with a staggering 23% of male students labeled as nomophobic and nearly 77% checking their phones over 35 times a day. In Italy, they're even advocating for nomophobia to be officially recognized as a specific phobia. Just remember, when you're glued to your screen, try to take a break. Otherwise, at some point, you physically won't be able to. Xanthophobia is a fear of the color yellow. And that's pretty much all I can say about it. Just a fear of one specific color. People with this rare phobia often avoid anything yellow, from school buses to sunflowers, and even yellow foods can cause distress. In psychology, the color yellow has traditionally been a symbol of joyfulness, happiness, and energy, and is associated with summer months. However, it also symbolizes caution and cowardice, and can irritate people in certain shades. For some xanthophobics, it symbolizes the ultimate panic regime. Ablutophobia. Remember that one guy from high school who had a little bit of an unpleasant aura? The only thing that kept you from suggesting a bath, even if you had to wash him yourself, was your feeling of better mind my own business. Maybe he had ablutophobia, a fear of bathing, washing, or cleaning oneself. Or maybe he was just a lazy prick. Anyway, this phobia most often occurs in children and resolves with age, but it can still be present in adults. People with ablutophobia steer clear of bathing and showering, often leading to serious body odor and social isolation. However, their fear of bathing is so intense that these consequences seem minor in comparison. This phobia might stem from a traumatic water-related event or a general fear of getting wet. Sometimes it's linked to aquaphobia, the fear of water. Octophobia. Octophobia is a fear of the number 8, like a simple number that may throw a person into a cold sweat. Interestingly, there are a few known phobias of specific numbers, except for the fear of numbers themselves, arithmophobia, and the fear of the number 13, triskaidekaphobia. People with octophobia fear the symbol 8 as it appears written down. They can also fear objects presented in groups of 8. This rare phobia may come from its resemblance to the infinity sign, so it's kind of a fear of infinity? God, nah, it doesn't make any sense no matter how hard I try to justify it. I mean, yes, it can come from a traumatic event involving the number 8, such as an accident that happened on the 8th of the month. But dude, really? The number 8? Optophobia is a fear of opening one's eyes. Okay, this one is even more ridiculous and scary at the same time. Imagine the challenge of navigating daily life without opening your eyes. Usually linked to generalized anxiety disorder, optophobia often results from a traumatic incident. I don't even want to imagine what a person must experience to develop this phobia, and I hope I never will. Globophobia is a fear of balloons. This one's a favorite of our beloved clown Pennywise. The level of fear varies from person to person and can range from avoiding being near balloons to avoiding places with balloons altogether. Some people are so terrified that even seeing a balloon on TV triggers intense anxiety. This rare fear can be especially tough for kids, as balloons are a staple at birthday parties. Usually, globophobia stems from a traumatic childhood experience with a balloon, like the shock of one popping. It can also be linked to a fear of clowns, coulrophobia, since clowns and balloons often come as a package deal. For some, a balloon is not just a decoration, it's a source of dread. Hippopotomonstrosesquippedaliophobia is a fear of long words. Ironically, it's also the longest word in the dictionary. I can imagine a conversation between a patient and a doctor. The patient asks, "Doctor, what's wrong with me? Tell me." And the doctor replies, "You, pal, have hippopotamon," and not even halfway through the diagnosis, the patient's already fainting. Thankfully, another name for this phobia is sesquippedaliophobia. Not very short, but not too long either. It is believed that the phobia of long words develops from being embarrassed by pronouncing long words incorrectly. This may occur while reading aloud in front of the class as a child. The phobia can also be common in people with dyslexia. Ephebiphobia is a fear of adolescence or youth. People with ephebiphobia may perceive teenagers as out of control or dangerous, which they are, and believe they are rude, unpredictable, and do not follow the rules, which they also are. This fear is thought to develop from the negative portrayal of teenagers in the media. People with ephebiphobia are afraid of teenagers and will not want to be around them. They may avoid going to a friend's house if they have teenagers or avoid places where teenagers tend to hang out. Omphalophobia is a fear of belly buttons. I genuinely have nothing else to say about this fear, so let's move on, shall we? Linonophobia is a fear of string, and this one seems kinda reasonable to me. A person with linonophobia will have an extreme reaction even when just thinking of string, let alone seeing it in person. People with linonophobia will avoid string or anything having to do with string, such as sewing or tying shoes. You can get this phobia from experiencing a traumatic event, such as being kidnapped or tied up as punishment. It can also develop simply from watching these events on television. Finally, something that does make sense, in a way. Chaetophobia is a fear of hair. Don't mistake it for pogonophobia, the fear of beards. Chaetophobia can be a fear of one's own hair, other people's hair, or even animal hair. People with chaetophobia might be afraid of a hairball on the ground, or combing their hair. They often find it extremely difficult to get haircuts and will generally avoid situations where other people touch their hair. This phobia may arise from a traumatic experience involving hair. Some examples are a bad haircut or losing large amounts of hair by going bald. It could also be caused by someone believing that hair is dirty and not wanting to come in contact with it. Related phobias are trichophobia and trichopathophobia. Trichophobia is the fear of loose hair, such as hair that has fallen out onto clothes or furniture. Trichopathophobia is the fear of hair disease, which can include baldness or change in hair color. Imagine people who have chaetophobia, pogonophobia, trichophobia, and trichopathophobia encountering a yeti. Vestiphobia is a fear of clothing. No, that's not nudism. I mean, it can be, but it's not necessarily so. For many people, this manifests as a fear of a specific garment. For others, it might come from a fear of a tight-fitting clothing that causes one to feel constrained. In other cases, it is a fear of all clothing. For example, there have been cases where former soldiers develop a fear of military clothing, which is kind of a PTSD. But to speak plainly, damn the clothes. Walk in your birthday suit, I betcha. Ergophobia is a fear of work. Oh, I can hear all the procrastinators agreeing all around the globe. But trust me, it's worse than just laziness. People with ergophobia tend to have extreme anxieties associated with their place of work or work environment. Some may have a fear of manual labor or the act of working itself, while others can have a fear of finding a job. All of these cases would be classified as ergophobia. The fear of work can lead to anxiety attacks and impair a person's ability to function professionally. Of course, it can have a huge impact on a person's life, as most people need to maintain a job to survive. Ergophobia may stem from occupational burnout, where a person becomes so stressed and exhausted by their job that they feel they can no longer complete it. It can also be associated with negative work experiences, like an abusive employer or poor work-life balance. Decidophobia is the fear of making decisions. For some reason, I remembered the trolley problem. I hope no one watching this has this phobia, so I'll end the video with this interesting dilemma. It is sprouted a number of variations, but it boils down to something like this. You are riding in a trolley without functioning brakes, headed toward a switch in the tracks. On the current track stands 5 people who will be killed if the trolley continues on its path. You have access to a switch that would make the trolley change to the other track, but another individual stands there. That person is certain to be killed if the switch is activated. So, do you switch tracks or not?